This is the MonsGeek FUN60 Ultra, a very interesting keyboard because it is 60%. It's also $60 for the one that I particularly have right here. It's got 8K polling, Hall effect switches. What could be wrong with it? So like I said, 60% layout. This is definitely geared towards gamers. For a few reasons. One, the 8K polling, which no one really needs that unless you're gaming. And even if you're gaming, not really sure if you need 8K polling specifically. The 60% layout is usually attractive for gamers to reduce the amount of space on your desk when you're using mouse and keyboard. And the Hall effect switches allow for rapid trigger experiences with gaming, which means that as soon as you pick up the key, it will stop. And as soon as you start depressing the key, it'll trigger depending on the distance that you have set up in the drivers. So definitely ideal for gaming, specifically for when you want absolute fastest response time in the middle of combat or what have you. I should let you know MonsGeek sent this over to me a few months ago to do a review, and I'm just now getting to it. I actually told them I'd review it like in a couple weeks. Months went by, so my bad on that. And just for reference and clarity, my go-to keyboard right now is a Keychron Q3HE. I really like this guy. It is also Hall effect, so I do have rapid triggers on this. This has kind of been my gold standard as of late. I really do like this keyboard, and it's quite a bit more money than the FUN60 Ultra, like $240 versus $60, so keep that in mind. So this guy really does have some crazy features. Not only is it Hall effect, 8K polling, it's also CNC aluminum. This board actually has some weight to it. I was surprised when I first opened it up. I was like, oh, this is actually a heavy keyboard. I was expecting mostly plastic and kind of cheap feeling, and I don't get that at all with this guy. The WebDriver also works out pretty good. I'm not the type of person who goes into deep customization when it comes to magnetic switches because I pretty much like the rapid triggers, and that's it. I don't really do any kind of crazy macros. I don't want to press W and then shift W if it goes down a certain way. Like, I want my keyboards to work as keyboards most of the time, so I don't go too crazy with the customizations. One thing that I did do though was make it so when I press FN and use WASD, I can basically use that as arrow keys. I kind of feel like all 60% keyboards should do that because you don't have arrow keys, and naturally WASD is going to be your arrow keys, so why not just automatically map that? So the WebDriver is fine, had no issues with it. It does take a little bit of time to load up, so it might be a little finicky for some people. Also, if you do want to switch this in and out of, say, wired, Bluetooth, or wireless mode, you have to pop off the caps lock key, and then there's a switch underneath there. So little bit of an inconvenience right there if you do want to switch between modes easily. Another interesting thing that I'm not sure how often keyboard manufacturers are doing is the RGB has a 500 Hertz refresh rate, which if you're into video production, makes a really nice difference because you know when you get lines when you're videoing something because of the RGB, that's usually because the refresh rate in the RGB is pretty low, so certain frame rates or shutter speeds will actually show lines pretty easily. This $60 keyboard is claiming to be flicker free in its RGB, which is kind of nice, honestly. Continuing with the features though, there is two different versions. There's a TMR version and then a HE version or Hall effect version. Again, I have the Hall effect version, so I can't talk about the TMR type of stuff, but what the TMR version allows you to do is swap between mechanical switches and magnetic switches. Now, this topic is a little bit of a gray zone for me because there's a lot of different things and I don't understand all the peculiarities of it, but I do know that if you get the TMR version, if you did want to just say have magnetic switches for WASD, you could then do that and have the rest of the keyboard pure mechanical switches if you prefer those type of switches over the magnetics because of the way they feel or something. And later on in the video, I'll talk about the feel because I have mixed feelings about the feel of this keyboard. I want you to be aware of that right now. But if you are looking for that type of customizability, I think that's pretty unique. I don't know how many other keyboards are doing that to where you can actually have magnetic switches and mechanical switches intermixed. If you do end up swapping between different magnetic switches, there is some calibration that you have to do in the software. I didn't do any of that, so I don't know how long it takes, but I'd imagine that there's some fussiness involved with taking care of those things, so something to keep in mind. But it is really cool that they have this feature for the TMR version specifically to be able to mix and match switches to your liking. Obviously, if you swap out of magnetic switches to mechanical switches, you lose all these features of like rapid trigger, customizability, you know, like actuation distance. So obviously, you know, something to keep in mind. The particular switch that it comes with is the ACO Glare magnetic switch. Again, I don't really have experience in these type of switches, so I can't really comment on what's available out there, what type of options you could get that are better. I feel like for me, these feel a little on the light side. With the Keychron that I have, it is the default switches that come with the Hall effect, and I do actually like those quite a bit. I feel like they have enough resistance for when I'm typing. These feel extremely fast and light, which again, for me, not what I want. I like a little bit more resistance in my switches. You might like super fast switches, so if that's the case, then defaults to something that has very little resistance. Also has a 4,000 milliamp battery, and I've noticed that it lasts quite a bit of time, especially with the 8K polling. Again, kind of crazy that it's got 8K polling. Overall, pretty solid, especially the specs on paper, especially for $60 with this Ultra version. Now, here's my issue with it. It doesn't feel that great, at least to me. The sound is a bit hollow and the feel is also very light feeling. It's not bad by any means. It's just what I'm used to with the Keychron has this kind of very luxury, creamy, thocky type of thing going on that I really like, and it's also Hall effect. So the switches and the keycaps seem to be a bit on the light side, hollow, kind of empty type of feeling. But again, if you like a really fast switch, then maybe that's what you're looking for, so you wouldn't mind this. It's really tough to describe the way a keyboard feels on the internet. So many people have different opinions about how a keyboard should feel. So best I can do is just kind of give you an approximation of how I think it comes across. So again, a light, relatively clear type of feel and minimal resistance. It doesn't feel very difficult to press the keys down, which could be really good for gaming as well, because if you have the rapid trigger and you want to have as minimal distance pressed as possible for any kind of movement that you're doing, then it delivers that. But honestly, not much else I could say about this aside from crazy good deal, all things considered, what you get for this guy. Aluminum, Hall effect switches. If you get the TMR version, you can switch between mechanical switches and magnetic. It does cost more money though, I believe. So it passes the $60 mark right there. You do have this thing right here, which I'm not going to use that. Put a clip and hang it off my pants or something. If you're in the market for a gaming keyboard and your budget is tight, 60 bucks gets you a pretty solid board with a lot of features that you normally have to pay more money for. So I would definitely recommend it. My Keychron is only 1K polling, so you'd get 8K polling with a $60 board right here. It doesn't have like a holder dock for the dongle, so I could see myself losing the dongle easily in the future, which would suck. So there is that. And again, you do have to pop off the caps lock if you want to switch between modes, which could be a little annoying. Oh yeah, also it did come with a cable, a keycap remover, and a switch remover. The keycap remover is a little cheap feeling. Switch remover is nice, and the cable's okay. So there's that. But that is my thoughts on the FUN60 Ultra. I do recommend it if that is your budget, because it's actually a really decent gaming keyboard with a lot of features. I will have affiliate links below, so if you do purchase through those links, I do get a small cut at no additional charge to you. Also, thank you very much, MonsGeek, for sending over this keyboard. And I apologize for not reviewing it for months. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you next time for another one. Peace.